Welcome, you guys, to the season finale review of the You comparing the book to the show series. The first part of the video, holy shit, man. You guys really liked it. Like it was ever a thought that I wasn't going to do the rest. I'm definitely going to be doing the rest, but like I really appreciate you guys' support on the first one. I was supposed to upload this video on May 12th at 12 p.m. and it is May 12th at 2:37 p.m. right now. So I'm a little bit late on that. With that being said, I mean, we only have a little bit left in the script to go, so let's hop into it.
So this is the point in the video that I'm definitely going to suggest that if you haven't seen part one, that you go watch that and come back to this video, because I just jumped right into the next episode script. So you're really gonna have to watch that other video, man. I don't know what to tell you, but it'll be linked on screen now.
Now, in both mediums, Beck is knocked out in the cage, but before she wakes up in the book, we see Joe go into Beck's apartment, and when he does this, he finds a secondary laptop. Not Beck's main laptop that she uses for writing and all that. It's actually a MacBook, a computer that she's been wanting in the book, but says that she can't afford. And once Joe opens the computer, he can see how Beck could afford it, and that is that Dr. Nikki bought it for her. The wallpaper is them, and this explains why Book Beck didn't want Joe at her place anymore. Instead of like in the show where Beck would just sneak out to meet Dr. Nikki, in the book she would actually have him over her house. There's rum in the fridge at Beck's apartment, and that she apparently doesn't drink. Joe talks about how she doesn't drink rum usually, but it's just fucking sitting in her freezer, so she's obviously drinking it with somebody else. And Joe takes a huge swig, and Joe's saying he earned it because he did all this shit to Beck. And now we get back to where she's waking up in the cage, and we'll give the show the floor. Beck wakes up in the cage and starts screaming for Joe, but in the book, Joe plays Pitch Perfect in the cage and forgets that he pressed play on it and just lets it play continuously over and over again on the menu screen for like 10 hours or however long she's fucking asleep in the cage. And she wakes up and she's like going crazy. And in the book, Joe wastes no time and goes ahead and asks about the affair. And I'll read that right now. I look down at my yellow legal pad and begin. True or false? You're having an affair with your therapist. Nick Evangeline. False, you snap. I want you to pass this test. So I press. Again, true or false? You are having an affair with your therapist. Nicholas Evangeline. I deliberately left out the word doctor and you hang your head. False. I sigh.
Are you sure?
Finally, you open up to me, petal by petal, as a spring opens. You pull your hair behind your ear. It's complicated. This isn't Facebook, Beck. Nothing is complicated. It is or it isn't. You're on your feet, rattling, pulling your hair, growling, screaming for help, afraid for your life. Your poor vocal cords. What a waste. I drop my legal pad. I walk to the cage. I love you, Beck. The last thing in the world I want to do is kill you. She says, then let me out. Beck denies this, and Joe then shows her all of the evidence, to which Beck then says it was just a drunken night and that she made a mistake, but he reads an email from her alt account that she used to email Dr. Nikki. Nikki, honey, I'm trying to end things with Joe, but he has so little going for him, and I'm definitely the best thing that has ever happened to him, and it's hard. And honestly, Nikki, sometimes in the middle of the night, I wake up and I think I don't want to be a stepmother. Oh, can you bring back the things they carried? Thanks. That was what she wrote to Dr. Nikki. And then he asks in the book one more time if she's having an affair, to where she can't deny this and undeniably says that it is true that they were having an affair. And going back to the show, Joe is just feeding his disillusions to Beck, saying that everything he's done he's done for her, even putting her in the cage. And then says she doesn't even know and leaves to go show her something and leaves Beck down there in the basement alone. And say it with me, poor Beck. Back to the book, Beck is saying that she still loves Joe, but she wanted to try new things, but that was a mistake, and she sees why that was wrong. But Joe gives her food, turns up Pitch Perfect, and ignores Beck's calls for him to stay. And god damn. But he comes back with 2 copies of a book and says they're going to read it together. This is still in the book, by the way. Meanwhile on the show, Joe tells Ethan not to go downstairs because he's working on a book in very fragile condition. And that's one fucking hell of a way to put it, man. Like, I guess she's a fragile-ass book. He leaves the store and goes home, only to see an ambulance with Claudia in it. Joe sees Ron and asks why he's not in handcuffs, because he's like the one who did this to Claudia. And the cops insist that it was an accident. Back in the cage, Joe shows Beck all of the reasons that people he killed were bad. And bad for her. you know? And Beck gives him the look that any normal person would give him in this scenario, and he just keeps on going. But Joe goes on to say that the underwear and pictures of her are just memorabilia, like her wearing his shirt or his sweatshirt or something like that, you know? Something that seems normal, but obviously isn't fucking normal in this scenario. But she's wearing his shirt in both the show and the book. And this is not exactly happening in the book, but similar things. And Beck is opening up about Peach in the cage rather than when she did a few episodes ago in the book. But back to the show, Joe says that he's made Beck's life better, and she starts screaming and calling for help and calling Joe a murderer.
Good morning. Jeez, it's okay.
I mean, that's just genuine terror from somebody who hurt you. Like, that is excellently done. And Joe is now adding things to the cage that are supposed to make it, like, homey, but she's still being cold because she's in a fucking cage. Like, in the show, we cut to Joe being told things in the cage by Ivan Mooney and telling Beck the same things in the cage present day, and I'm like, fuck, man. Then he goes upstairs and finds Paco trying to steal the gun from the register, and Joe knows he obviously wants to use this gun on Ron, and he gets angry and says if he uses this gun, his life is over. So Joe gives him the key to the apartment and says that he can stay there and they will talk later. Joe then goes out with Beck's friends to cover his tracks, saying that he's concerned because she's missing, and they all confirm that she's on a riding retreat, which is what Joe planned for her alibi to be, so it works out because he posted this from her phone. In the book, we just get a daily routine of Joe bringing food to the cage to Beck and, you know, talking to her and so on and so forth, and this goes on for 3 days. But back to the show, the group talks about the Salinger PI and how they're following them because they think foul play has happened with Peach's death, which actually has, so they're not on a wrong track. But Joe goes back to the cage to tell Beck that all this has happened that day, and they talk for a while until Beck says she has to pee, and she wants to use the actual bathroom instead of using the bucket in the corner of the cage, which once again is just fucking cruel. And he almost agrees with this and lets her out until she sees her looking at the door, knowing she's going to run, and decides to not let her out. Beck then says a pretty good line in the show that it sucks Joe wasn't there to hear, but I'll just play it for y'all.
Are you gonna go jerk off to my panties? Or do you need to cut someone out before you can get hurt?
But Joe didn't hear that, and Beck goes to writing in the cage in both the book and the show. And this excerpt is very well written despite it being different across the both mediums. Joe drives to the edge of town to fake tweets from Beck, and this is where he goes into her apartment, but unlike in the book, no MacBook and Nikki and rum because he's already found all of this shit out. Instead, Joe goes to the hospital to visit Claudia and tells her that basically what he wished he told his mother.
Why do you protect the man who does this to you over your child? Over and over, you're his mother. Mothers are supposed to protect their children from men like him.
But Claudia says that Ron has connections and that if she stands up to him, she loses her son. Joe obviously doesn't know this, and Claudia assumes that he doesn't know this and says that they don't write books about women like her. Next thing that happened in the show has a book counterpart. So the Salinger PI that is here to investigate Peach's death comes up to Joe in the show, but he's not in the book. Instead, Joe walks up to a cop on the street, and this interaction is way earlier in the book, and this cop is none other than Karen Minty's brother. And he actually just beats up Joe and tells him to stay away from Karen. And this is an interesting difference from the show and the book, because in the book, this happens like midway through, but in the show, it's like close to the end. Like, I mean, shit, this is the fucking last episode. But in the show, the Salinger PI tells Joe that Peach might have had a stalker, and that the same individual might have been in the house the night that Peach died. And they found an item, and they're testing it for DNA.
I forgot the goddamn jar.
And the book and show have the same dilemma over the jar of urine. The PI also reveals that he saw him going to Beck's house earlier in that day. Of course, this would be after Beck had gone out of town, so I don't know why Joe would be going into her house unless he fucking, has her in a cage or something. But Joe tries to weasel his way out of this, saying that they broke up and that he was just returning his key, and he once again hits an iconic line.
Should I be worried? Are you following me?
But Joe and the PI go their separate ways because the PI has no evidence, and Joe goes back to the cage and says that he doesn't think that the PI believed anything he said. And he says that it'd be exactly what she wanted for him to go down for this, right? It would be exactly what she wanted, to see him as a killer, to see him as the murderer that he actually is. But he doesn't believe it like that. But regardless, Beck says that he wouldn't want him to go down for Paco's sake, because he would look out for him. Meanwhile, Ron is back at Claudia's door, and Paco sneaks him with the bat, but doesn't fully knock him out. Ron then gets up and chases after Paco, and Joe comes up and sees their door open and goes down to,
Hey, Ron.
So once this is now said and done, Ron is dead, and Joe tells Paco everything that he needs to do to cover it up, like Ivan Mooney told him to do. Paco asks basically like if just because he was bad, it was right to kill him, and he says that it's not because he's bad, it's because love is more important. And to kill for the love of a child is justifying any death of bad people, and Joe is passing that along to another kid. Holy fuck, that is wild, man. The cycle is just continuing. But Joe gets back to the cage to a cheerful Beck in both mediums now, but in the show he gives him her writing, and the writing frames Dr. Nicky for all the things that Joe has actually done, basically just like framing him for all the crimes that he's committed. And this leaves way for Joe and Beck to both get out of this. And, I mean, this could be the perfect story to let her out and clear a slate at the same time. So I would imagine that Joe would take this deal, right? Right? But Joe says he understands if she hates him, but she says that she loves him. And she says that he takes care of her, and nobody has ever done that to her before. And she gets all romantic and suggests that they kiss, but she knows that he's not ready to trust her yet and open the cage up. Until he does, and he opens the cage for her, and they start to kiss, and then Joe realizes that the typewriter is broken, and right after this, he gets stabbed in the side with one of the keys for the typewriter, and Beck locks him in the cage. Now, this is where the book and the show take a detour. Now, Beck asks Joe to bring ice cream to the cage 3 days into her being in the cage to, celebrate her being in the cage for 3 days, I guess. But when Joe comes back, she's fully naked in the cage, and when she's able to
You said she's what?
fully naked, she's got her boobies out, that shit is huge, and then the booty cheek, and she's able to coerce Joe into the cage to have sex. And I'll read that bit from the book right now.
With that voluptuous big booty, I had to go slap on her for the one time, and then I showed her the one too, just because it's me and you.
Come over here. You command low. Bring the ice cream. I do as I'm told, and your right hand moves over your collarbone and onto your breast, and you have another demand. Give me my dessert. I tear the bag and the spoon falls off to the floor, but fuck it. And I tear off the lid and as well the plastic lining. The ice cream is soft and my dick is hard. I'm saying, man, like they just drag this shit all the way out.
When did they drop this book?
Dude, I'm pretty sure it was like 2018, 2017.
I'm surprised they didn't do like she dipped my fucking penis in that Haagen-Dazs double dark chocolate ice cream and then
Look at this, bro. 1 second, I say. Tick-tock, you say. You purr. I play the song on the computer. You like it. You command. Put it on repeat. I obey and I return to the drawer. And just like that, I got to read this whole thing because it's just fucking insane. But I obey and I return the drawer and you kneel before the cage. Your nipples hard. You want to know if I can pull the drawer out and you make an open window. I can. And you told me to take off my pants. You do. You reach both hands through the new open space where the drawer used to be, and I pick up the ice cream and approach the cage. You touch yourself, and your finger emerges wet, glistening, and I know to bring the prank closer. The ice cream is hotter because of our heat, melting. You immerse your other hand in the magnet between your legs, and you don't let go of my eyes. Both of your hands are covered in juices, and you dip those wet fingers into the melting vanilla. You tease me. You tell me you want my mouth, and I give you my mouth, and your fingers fill my mouth, and your other fingers are touching skillfully, mysteriously. Her first rose, my dick. Your hands are the Da Vinci Code, and my body is yours. I suck the life out of your fingers, and you pry them from my mouth. Dude, I have this going out for a while because it's just fucking, it's just long as shit, man. I gotta read the whole thing. You take me out of your mouth, and you hold me in your hands. You look up at me, pleading. Fuck me. And then they have sex in the cage, man. Then they have sex that night. I don't want to give away every sexual detail of this book, but you can fucking imagine. I mean, like, you scratch me, I could kill you, and I know. You scratch me, and I could kill you, and you know it. And your nipples are harder than ever, and your pussy never felt this sweet. This tight, just vanilla. And we could go on like this forever. You orgasm truly. You're exploding, and this is an exorcism, and the exclamation point. You're speaking in tongues, and I own you, and I'm in you, and I loosen my grip and explode, and you own me. You do. Your back arches. Wow. I've taken you places better than the Upper West Side, Superior Turks and Caicos, and Nikki's beige room. I have taken you to France, to the Chalice, to the moon, and you cease to move, and a smile rolls over your entire body. You're a lily pad, sun-stroked and floating, rooted in the floor of the lake. Me, dark above you. The cage door is wide open, and I'm half naked, and I'd never be able to catch you if you ran up the stairs. If you grabbed my empty dick and kicked and tried to make a run for it, you would make it. You hear that, man? She had a chance to get out. But going back to the show, the morning after, we're kind of lining up with both events. Well, not, lining up with both events because this only happens in one day, the show. In the book, it happens in 2. But the morning after this, Joe and Beck are still in the cage with the door open, and Joe goes to shower in the basement. Then, and only then, does Beck make a break for it and runs out of the cage to the door of the bookstore. And now she's out of the cage in both mediums. But in the book, she's at the front door of the bookstore. She's trying to just, get that thing open. So you can just imagine, instead of, the basement door, she's at the bookstore door. There's nobody to come to the door of the bookstore because, one, it's the middle of the night. It's 2, 3 a.m. And in the show, it's the middle of the day. But back to the show, Beck is furious. And with Joe doing all that talking while she was in the cage, it's only right that she gets to do some talking now.
You did. Your life was a mess.
Yes, but it was my life. And I didn't need some sociopath on a white horse to clean house. I mean, you are him. You are the thing that you should have killed.
And you see what I mean? This is kind of show exclusive where they actually give Beck more to say when she gets out of the cage. But Elizabeth Lail really has some fucking range. And she keeps going on about how broken and fucked up he is and how insecure he is. Joe just cries in the cage. And once she's done, she tells him to rot in there and runs upstairs. And the show, there's of course this lock at the top of the basement stairs door. But luckily, Paco is coming into the store, and he sees Beck behind the locked door, and knowing what Joe has done and what he's capable of, and how he just told him to not tell anybody about how the fact that he just killed Ron, Paco leaves. And to catch you back up on the book, Beck breaks out, manages to run all the way up to the front of the bookstore, and the doors are locked. And when Joe comes up the stairs, even though he isn't in the cage, they still have a conversation, where Beck is pleading that she just leaves Joe and leaves town and never sees or hears from her again. And sadly, Beck, Joe is going to make that shit happen for you, but it's not going to be in the way that you think. They talk in the bookstore, and Beck tries to fight again, and then Joe restrains her. And when she screams, he covers her mouth, and he does it for so long that she's no longer screaming anymore. Back to the show, though. Beck is doing a similar thing, pleading to be put back in the cage when she finds out that Joe has got out because he hit a spare key. She runs away from Joe and hits him with the famous mallet. She grabs the keys off him and runs back upstairs to try to open the door. But as she's trying to unlock the door, Joe grabs her, and we cut to black. However, we get back to the book, and we see that Beck is still alive. She wasn't fully suffocated, and Joe tries to fully finish the job. Dude, I remember seeing this on some AI TikTok where they put his voice over these last quotes, and I only knew that they were doing that because I read the book. But he was like, "I squeeze your neck, and I thank you for kicking me in the dick. I try to blink your saliva out of my eyelashes. I thank you for proving beyond a reasonable doubt that you are bad. You do not love me or life, and we never had a chance. And you are commonplace and raw, gasping and gurgling. Solipsistic. I don't know what the fuck that means. Pop the definition of that on the screen right now. Solipsistic with your fudgy, inconsiderate fingerprints ruining my books, my heart, my life." "What's that, Beck?" He says that to Beck out loud. "You have one word left in you. Help. And I do help you. I take my right hand and I reach for your Da Vinci Code. I shove the book into my mouth and I bite off a few pages. I yank the book away and I toss it and grab the torn pages out of my mouth, wet with saliva that you wanted so badly. My last words to you. Open up, Guinevere." I shove the pages into your mouth and your pupils slip around and your back arches. This is the sound of you dying. There are bones cracking. Where? I do not know. The tear ducts in emergency mode. The tear of death seeps out of your left eye and onto your porcelain cheek, and your eyes are fixated on somewhere I have never traveled, gladly beyond any experience. Your eyes have their silence. You are no better than a doll, and now you do not react to the pages. Your mouth takes the blood that rises from your gullet. So that's it, man. He suffocated her with the pages from the books from the bookstore. And in the book, literally until season 5, it's actually ambiguous how he killed her. So the fact that they're giving us that, like a genuine explanation of how he killed her, that's just like his last words from the book being open up Guinevere to her. Like, holy shit, Book Joe is so brutal. But he cries after killing her. Because, I mean, of course, he was in a fit of rage. And, of course, it somehow was not intentional on his part, even though she came back to life. And you had fully time to have a second chance and be like, you know, I'm not going to kill her. But she's dead now in the book and the show. And unlike in the show where Beck comes up with the idea to frame Dr. Nikki, Book Joe just kind of comes up with it on his own, you know, just like fully authentically. Like after he's killed her, he's like, okay, how am I going to fucking figure this out? And then he just decides to bury Beck's body on Dr. Nikki's property. And in the show, he just fully plants his box of mementos on Dr. Nikki's property, and I'm like, god damn, man, that's low-key so much worse. But while he's digging the hole for Beck's body in the book, he's listening to this wedding party from afar and listening to them cheer, and he's getting mad and eventually cries when he's done burying her. Now in the show, it kind of stops here, and we see the arrest of Dr. Nikki for all of his crimes committed, and we see Joe, and he sees someone new coming into the bookstore with a skirt and a hoodie. And someone might even describe her as frisky. And this in the show is Candace. But in the book, however, this is Amy Adam. The exact description of Amy Adam that you get and midway through the book. But she comes back in at the end of the story and, you know, starts talking to Joe at the end of the book. But in the show, this is Candace. And she's actually just like not dead. And this leaves the viewer with rapt attention for more to come for the next season. But that's the end of the first season of You, but not the end of the book. So let me wrap that up for you. 3 months after Joe killed Beck, he gets invited to Ethan and Blythe's wedding and says that he can bring a +1, but he's thinking that he's going to die alone at this point. So he's not really thinking about bringing any other girl to the wedding until this girl walks in. This girl, of course, being Amy Adam. And it's the same description that the show gave, but Amy does more than make an appearance. She asks for a job. Joe gives it to her, so they get to flirting, and the cycle begins again in the book, where Joe meets a girl and falls in love with her, hopefully to toxic attachment. Ending the book with the sentence, "You are gone forever, and she is here now." Cementing a new victim of Joe for the next season, or the next book in this case. But that's it. It's the end of the first season of You and the first book of You. This was a long-ass process in the making, and it has taken several recordings and, like, sessions to get this shit done. I really appreciate you guys' feedback on the last video. I hope you guys enjoy this one just as much. And just letting you know that there is more of this coming. I'm going to be posting a video on each of the rest of these seasons, or once I finish this series of books, the video series will come out correspondingly. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've definitely enjoyed making videos on this book series. It's definitely one of my niche topics that I enjoy talking about, and it seems like you guys enjoy listening to. So hopefully you guys stick around for when I talk about more. And as of now, I can't promise you another You video soon, but stick around for Victorious. Joe plays Pitch Perfect over and over again, and he forgot to hit play